as we know, but Eazy-E, one of the biggest icons in the music industry, and he was hospitalized February 24th, complaining of things like chest pain or respiratory difficulties. You know, something that could have came to me or Dr. Rabb. I'm pretty sure we would have had something to help him out. Dr. Goss, he's from Compton. Dr. Goss is right there in Compton. But he went to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and I'm not saying if you don't have an emergency, you got to take care of your emergency, but he went there and they died, and come to find him later diagnosed with AIDS. Now, if you're diagnosed with AIDS, what do they give you? Now, he kept whatever he was taking secret, so we don't know exactly what he took, but I would just assume that everybody else they gave AIDS medication to, that's what they gave him. Because he only lasted a month. Look here, March 26th, he died. And there was a very small article printed in the Metro section of the LA Times. One of the biggest rap icons, and they got him in the Metro section. Anyway, look at a little history here. Like I said, I didn't know how all this was going to come together, but this is March 30th, 1995. UCLA medical girl, it's announced that the baby girl overcame the so-called AIDS virus and is now test negative. And it was reported that she fought it off with her own immune system. Okay. 7 days later, new virus. Reportedly found in Austria, the new virus is said to have crossed from horses to humans. And just my crazy thought is that this is not, it's like you guys figure this out. We got something else behind it. Zeus Miles. Zeus Miles was one of the. This brother had so much information. I used to go to his house and study with other health practitioners, people that he trusted, and just study just hundreds and hundreds of medical documents. And I think Zeus Miles was on the right page at one time. And then I think he got deterred by someone who got close to him. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Zeus Miles, one of the things that he talked about, he talked a lot about the vaccine connection to AIDS. He said we have to look at the fact that if all of these, he was the one who brought me that London Times article in the 80s that showed you all the people that were vaccinated in Central Africa with the smallpox vaccination through the World Health Organization. It's the same area you have so-called AIDS right now. And so this is very important to look at. Now, on November 29th, he died of kidney failure. And to my understanding, I don't know his personal thing, but I know there was some blood pressure issue. And normally what happens with us is we get on blood pressure medicine, and one we know is hydrochlorothiazide affects the kidneys. And I can say this right up front. My mom, who's passed away exactly almost a year to this very day, had kidneys that were about 18%. Her doctor took her off of hydrochlorothiazide in a few months. Her kidney functions went back up to 40%, just from not taking that particular medicine. And that was through a doctor's instruction, so they know. Okay, as far as AIDS are concerned, one of this is how they started pushing this. It was a $6 million opening campaign, and it was really aggressive. And what it was a TV ad. It was if you guys might remember this, it was a lady by the name of Felice. And she says, this is her speaking. She goes, she's talking about her husband. She goes, she tells viewers that she has AIDS. She goes, she has AIDS. She says, it is not a matter of how many people you've been with. He was only the second person in my life. He did have other relationships while we were married. It could have happened to anybody. And then they went on to some other subject. So you just said why, the reason why you got AIDS because you got an unfaithful husband. This all of a sudden put a little rift between the man and the woman, and they're looking at, I have this because of you. Somebody in your past, somebody in your history, and all of this. These are things that we've been lied to about. I'm going to tell you about the lie. Then Magic Johnson announces that the AIDS virus cannot be located in his body. And I can only say this. I don't know what Magic did personally, but I don't think he was taking AZT or any of these traditional medicines. And the only thing I can say is that I know that he said it's a private issue, as far as what he's been doing, but he would have not lasted on those particular medications at all. And I can just say one thing. I know that for a while, I don't know what he does now, but I know when he first got diagnosis, I know some of his people, and I can just say this: he wasn't eating meat. He had cut that out, so he did do some things with his diet. Okay, so we have to look at that. June 10th, 1997, Geronimo was released from jail for a crime he didn't commit. And this is part of an issue. It's not just in traditional medicine that we have agents, but we also have agents in health too. But this was just a situation where he was put in jail by an agent or a couple agents. Julius Butler being one that used to be the second in charge at First AME Church. Not to say that, and I will not dog First AME Church, because some of those members actually supported Geronimo and came to court and said that we're not with that. We want him removed as well. And I appreciated their perspective. Okay. Then they had a triple drug treatment, so they started pushing these triple double combinations and things. And then they had ads all throughout the black community. Black and the Latino community had all of these ads that were pushing all of these particular medications. Okay. And this is a study that a lot of people don't know about, that we've totally overlooked. This was a 1997 HIV transmission study. Does HIV really cause AIDS? Nancy Padianch, the PhD and MPH, while director of the International Research AIDS Research Institute, the UCSF, she conducted a 10-year study on heterosexual transmission of HIV. She tracked 175 couples with one of them diagnosed with HIV. The couples had unprotected sex with each other for a 10-year period. Results, none of them, zero, had the transmission sexually. And there's a good reason why this is, and I feel like I know the answer, and we'll talk about that in a second. They had all kinds of stuff. They blamed it on the prisoners. They said prisoners had bi boyfriends, were bi, and all this other stuff. You know, they put all this information out. But when you look at this, you get through this, you can see some of the side effects of some of the medicines that they're giving you for so-called AIDS. Now, if a person has AIDS, do they want to have a rash, hives, itching, difficulty breathing, tightness in the chest, swelling in the mouth, face, lips, or tongue, blood in the urine, burning, numbness or tingling, depression, dizziness, fevers, chills, sore throat, irregular heartbeat, painful urination, red or swollen blistered skin, stomach pain, vomiting, yellowing of skin, but the benefits outweigh the risk? I don't understand that. We go through our whole history. Now, remember we were talking about the violence initiative. Well, this is where the violence initiative show how it actually paid off. Because in 2004, according to the story released by, this was Associated Press, behavior drugs now top all other medications being used by kids, even antibiotics and asthma medication. There was a 49% rise in children under 5. And so they started giving these to children. I could have been on them. You know, I mean, really, a lot of us could have been on some of these psychiatric drugs. It was cognitive things that need to be done. All I had to do was say, I'm gonna call your mama for me. And I knew my daddy was on the ship, and it took him a minute to get there, but my mom would have came down there no matter what she was doing, and she might have showed up with a belt in the classroom. It was just that was the situation. As a teacher, I don't have problems with those compares. I'm not saying abuse. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those that are no nonsense. You don't talk back to adults. I don't argue with children. You know, that kind of thing. There's a adult lane, and there's a child lane. You have to stay in your lane, and as long as that's established, then there's really not a problem. Okay. And we go through the years and we see the statistics just get higher and higher. It's always in the area with people of color. You notice that. You see, it's always where there's people of color, the large amounts, and you say, well, why? How do these things happen? Well, you see all of the people that were vaccinated in Africa, millions. Okay, and this is the scene that we see, and we're usually the first one in the front, right? And this, I think, was in Oakland. I mean, there was just lines of people just waiting. Just to get, when they told you that they had the H1N1. Everybody just went running. I mean, and they can announce it tomorrow. There's something new, and we'll go running. I call that voluntary drive-bys, right? That's sad. That was even happening in Long Beach. If you're so lazy, you don't have to get out of your car. You can just stay in your car, stick your arm out, and get a voluntary drive-by. Okay. And you look at the history of vaccines. In the 1920s, there were lawsuits. There were one in Kansas City and in Pittsburgh against doctors and medical society that were declaring that there were smallpox epidemics that there was none. You know, And beginning of World War II, Germany made vaccines compulsory, and diphtheria rose to all-time high of 150,000, while unvaccinated Norway had only about 50 cases. You look at that, but what it is it's a vaccine law that says that children have to get several vaccines that that are recommended, and these vaccines they can add on to them whenever they want to. And if we don't fight that, and as of right now, it's on the books. The only thing it doesn't affect is daycares. Initially it did, but they fought that. The only exemption now is medical exemptions. The religious exemptions. We're supposed to be in a state that really appreciates religion, and people that have religious exemptions to vaccines cannot even use them anymore. And that was signed by Governor Brown. So we have a gender bill. We have 2 vaccine laws. One's mandatory, the other one says that your child can get one without your permission. And what's so sad about that one that they can get it without your permission is that a 12-year-old can get any vaccine that they deem to be sexually transmitted. So we have to watch that. So any particular disease that they may say, oh, that can also be transferred through sex, then your child can say, oh, I want that one without your permission. And this is what's so problem. The problem with that is that there's no way in the world that we're gonna know if a child's gonna have adverse reaction. A 12-year-old's gonna know to go to the parent and say, oh, I'm having swelling, or I'm having this or that. They can be going through some things and you don't even know. So we have to take charge on that level. And so we'll be dealing more on that. We should be focusing more on things like this. The last thing I'm going to say on that, I know I talked a little about the vaccines and the AIDS, and those are issues that are interrelated. I'm going to say this, and then tap on a couple, a little bit on what things we can do. A couple more minutes, and then Dr. Rapp hopefully can share some things and really address this whole psychology on cancer, because really everybody is being diagnosed with cancer. It's like everybody in this room probably knows somebody in their family or someone that's close to them that's got that diagnosis, and what are their options? Is there only one? Because it seems like there's only one path. And as far as I just lost an uncle, 2 uncles through chemotherapy. Not cancer. They got taken out of here through chemotherapy, and not doing what they needed to do to be able to heal that part of their body. And so, but I will say this in reference to AIDS. The reason why I say there's no sexual relationship between AIDS is if you really look at most doctors, if you can actually look it up yourself, when it's concluded on whenever the so-called AIDS virus has been isolated, okay, which it has been isolated, what they're calling AIDS has been isolated, okay. I know some people say, oh, it doesn't exist, but there's something we're talking about, and it is the root of it is HIV CPZ. What is HIV CPZ? Excuse me. SIV-CPZ, SIV-CPZ. What is SIV-CPZ? It's a simian immune deficiency virus from a chimpanzee.
Say that again?
It is a simian immune deficiency virus from a chimpanzee. So how did that get into our body if that's where you're saying the root of it is? It's not sexually transmitted. We're not cohabitating with chimpanzees, right? We're not eating chimpanzees, okay? So how is that getting into our body? The only way that can get into your body is through a blood transfusion or vaccine. It's easy to get it through a vaccine because that's what they made mandatory. All of the people that you see in Central Africa, if you look at the World Health Organization that went there in 74, 75, 76, just vaccinating everybody, millions. And that's the same reason you got so-called AIDS. Well, what does chimpanzee have to do with that? Well, there was 3 people that were coming up with a polio vaccine. There were Albert Sabin, who went to the USSR. You had Jonas Salk, which is the one who had the polio vaccine here. Who was the third person? Who was the third person that came up with a polio vaccine? And each one of them, the whole thing is they wanted to have their vaccine be the one that everyone's using because that's a patent, that's money, that's millions and millions of dollars. So we had Jonas Salk here, we had Albert Sabin in the USSR, and then we had another guy by the name of Hillary Kaprowski. He's never mentioned. Where did he go? He went to the Congo, he went to Africa, and he injected 1 million children with a polio vaccine nurtured on chimpanzee culture. Oral chimpanzee. That was your first, and then after that, a doctor from that region went back there and studied, and come to find out, that was your first HIV case. That was your first HIV case coming from a simian, and so that's why, and he had a laboratory there where he actually made polio vaccines, and so my position is that's where it was originated and made in a laboratory, and when I showed you about the Liberia situation in '71, they went to Africa and Liberia. They have a colony there where they're actually studying. They were studying chimpanzee culture. So you have the means to get it because it's from a chimpanzee. So it's easy to just put that in the form of a vaccine, and then it's a marker. It's not destroying and killing people as they're saying. Because the last thing was saying that if you look at Dr. Duesberg, who isolated the first cancer gene, he says that when he's isolated what they're calling AIDS in the laboratory, it's not destroyed. It hasn't even been through what they call the Koch-Postulated test, where you're actually observing a disease destroying other cells. It hasn't even been through that. He says he's never seen that happen. It's in a dormant state whenever he's seen it in a laboratory. So if it's in a dormant state, how are all these people dying because of the fact they're being misdiagnosed, other things going on in their body are not addressing, okay? And the medicines that they're giving them is actually destroying the very cells that they need in order to get well. And so that is the problem. And so the answers that I see is a holistic diet. The things I've used over the years is I'm a vegan. I've been a vegan since 1987, and I eat more of an alkaline diet. So these are the things that I'll eat more of. Disease cannot live in an alkaline environment. So if you see the things here, we got almonds, apples, we got beets, we got just things that are live. You know, all your live things are usually alkaline. All your acidic things, and you know, there's just a whole lot here. Okay. Well, we're gonna go ahead and end right there. I appreciate your time. Thank you. If you got any questions before Dr. Rabb comes up, real quick, I'll take any questions from you. Yes.
What was the purpose of doing the chimpanzee vaccine?
Well, the chimpanzee they know that it's a virus that chimpanzees have had since you've had chimpanzees. It's a virus that doesn't cause them any harm. It was by putting that in our body, that's looked at, that's a marker. So their whole thing is not the fact that they believe that virus is gonna cause AIDS. Their whole thing is that if they can get that diagnosis, then they can get you on the medication, and the medication is what's going to give you what they're calling AIDS. Just I feel it's no different than when they give you the cancer diagnosis. If you get the cancer diagnosis, they know you're going to get the medication. So yes, but it's a marker in the body that says this is here. They check the blood, you can see that it's here. But I'm saying if we're not eating them, we're not cohabitating with them. How does that get in our body? And we never ask that question. We see rappers, we see entertainers, we see them. HIV, the virus will cause AIDS. Get tested, take your medicines, and got people drugged up. Okay. Yes.
Did you just say Dr. Hillary? What was the last name?
Kaprowski.
Kaprowski.
Kaprowski. Yeah, I think that's Kaproski or something like that. Should be close to. Vaccines, they don't react to what they call the nucleoprotein of the virus, and so they cause other ailments in the body. And all of the statistics that they put out there on them has been screwed. If you go to my webpage is oneloveherbs.com. I don't have any cards on me today, but it's the number one. It's very easy to remember. It's oneloveherbs.com, but it's the number one, loveherbs.com. And if you go there, I have a documentary I did just on vaccines, and it goes through the whole history, of it. A lot of the things I just mentioned too, on that. And yeah.
What do you recommend as a cure for autism?
Well, I don't know if there's any cure, but I know people that have changed their child's diet, taken them off the sugar. Even I have one client that took them off of all the wheat gluten, and that helped a whole lot. The omega-3s, has helped a lot. But really the sugar, I know that's one of the main issues, and then doing more cognitive things, because some some children actually end up becoming really functional to the point where you don't even notice any difference. People wouldn't even recognize. I've seen some that were really in bad states, and then as they grew older, a lot of just keep working. The thing is, just keep working with them and never give up on them, and let them know that you're not giving up on them. And knowing that you can always keep improving. But always keep their mind flowing. I would see what school they're going to. Make sure that they're stimulating their mind and not just leaving them on a game or leaving them in a corner, because that happens a lot too. Okay.
Good doctor.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, and I'd like to bring up brothers who's helped me and a lot of people in the community. You hear him on the front page a lot, and he will tell you where else you can listen to him on a regular basis. So let's give a strong black hand.